What were some of your key takeaways from yesterday's State Central Committee meeting?
You know, Mark, I have been processing that meeting ever since. It it, it was in many ways shocking. It was everything that we have been talking about on Illinois Review, the arrogance, the belittling by the establishment elite. It was all on full display for the whole room to see. And honestly, it was a very shocking experience. If I could have scripted something for the Babylon Bee, I don't think I could have done as well as what transpired.
It really was shocking. And for starters, no one believed that over 200 grassroots activists would show up. And it was evident because there were only about two little boxes of mini donuts, probably a dozen or so, couple of dozen mini donuts. And there were so many people that were in the room that the donuts were gone, the coffee was gone, the water was gone. They had soda on ice, that was gone. But more importantly, there weren't enough chairs. And if you notice, Scott, there were elderly men and women that needed to have chairs, and nobody got up to say, "Here, let's get you a chair. Let's get some more chairs." Chairman Tracy didn't recognize and say, "I'm so glad that you're all here. Here, you know what? We're running low on coffee. I'm going to send someone to make sure that they keep replenishing the coffee, keep replenishing the sodas. If there's any snacks, we'll order some snacks. If not, I'm going to have someone order, 10 pizzas. We want to make sure that you've got enough food, drinks. We've asked the staff at the Bolingbrook Golf Club to bring in more chairs. We want to make sure that everybody can sit." They didn't do any of that stuff. Instead, they belittled, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Some comments that were made, Scott. They had a sergeant at arms, Steve Bolton, who walked around with a scowl on his face and literally harassed people. And no, you could take photos, but they wanted at an open meeting, no video recordings, no audio recordings. At an open meeting, Scott, I'm not an attorney, but is that in some violation where this is an open meeting where there is public comments from members of the public, but yet they're suppressing the right to speak? You're limited to 90 seconds. And they used words like Chairman Tracy used words when he's talking about the rules, right? And he mentioned you can waive your right to speak. If you're repeating what others said, we will cut you off. And that's when people started yelling, "What about our First Amendment rights? We have a right to speak." They were limiting that. But Scott, in some sort of rules, and when it's an open meeting like it was, this was not a closed door executive session. This was an open meeting with public comments. Can you really restrict and say no video and no audio recording in these meetings?
No, you're not supposed to. And this is an open meeting. It's an open business meeting of a national party, right? This is a quasi-governmental function that's going on, and they have to abide by the Illinois Open Meetings Act, which provides for things like public comment. It provides that the public has access to the room. But to your point earlier, Mark, they wanted to do everything, and we'll get into more of it, but from what you said, they wanted to do everything to keep people away, to make it as uncomfortable of a place so that people wouldn't hang out. And it was at a country club that certainly had the ability to bring in more chairs, more food, more coffee, more water at a minimum, more water. And they didn't want to do that. And Mark, probably 2 weeks ago, I told members of the State Central Committee that there would be hundreds of people coming to this event. I believe you said the same thing, and we were mocked. Because only 30, I think the maximum amount of people who had ever showed up at one of these events before was in 2012. It was 30 people. So in their mind, they thought, well, I mean, 30 people. But they did nothing to that room to set it up differently than it's been set up any other time in the 100 meetings before, where it's configured for basically 10 people, 10 members of the public to witness the event.